Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 313 of the AwardsWatch podcast. I'm Sophia Ciminello. I am your host today. We have a full crew here. I'll start off with Erik Anderson,
Hello, hello.
Ryan McQuade,
I'm doing golden.
Josh Parham,
Hello, hello.
and Karen Peterson.
Hi.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be hosting today and dive into another Oscar themed discussion. So, we'll be going over some categories we haven't discussed. I know on our last editors episode, we got a little carried away and didn't have time to talk about song and score, but we'll cover that today. And then we'll do a little check in about picture and director. So, on our editors episode back in September, we talked about these categories. We'll have to see if anything has changed. But Josh and Karen, I'm excited to hear what you both think about these categories too and how things stand. To kick it off, though, let's just go to original score. We'll start there. We're going to talk about our music categories this week. Also, I think it's timely because we had nominations for the Grammys, so a major industry prize in music, and we did see a couple of categories that cross over with, or probably will cross over with the Oscars. And then we also had the HMMA nomination. So this is the Hollywood Music and Media Awards. Original score. I think just to start off, what are we predicting? And I'm curious, I think, how you guys think of this branch when you predict. Are there particular quirks that they might have? Josh, I'll go to you first.
Well, for a long time, original score was one of those categories that I feel like you could be very consistent in picking people that were very popular. It's a very clicky branch. I have found it less clicky. So, like, we don't see too many like Thomas Newman rubber stamp nominations anymore. But they still have some of their favorites, and I do think you need to pay attention to them. And it does seem like Ludwig Göransson, for instance, is now becoming a mainstay. And of course, with Sinners doing so well, I think that's one to look out for. I think Johnny Greenwood is another one. I'm thankful that John Williams isn't in the race this year because it seems like he absolutely would be getting nominated. So I definitely do look for a mixture of some kind of new favorites and also ones that still have the potential to break through. I kind of feel like that's the mentality with original score these days.
I totally agree with you. It is one where I do think you have to think about the veterans that are in the mix, but it has sort of been shifting away, I think, from that rubber stamping that we've seen before, where you do have some new names and contenders that come through. I think there are a couple this year that could pop up. I think Max Richter in particular for Hamnet. When I saw that this would actually be his first nomination, I was a little bit surprised. I think just with the work that he has done in his career so far. Erik, what do you think about this category right now?
I definitely agree with Josh in that it is a very insular group, kind of always has been. But also, if we kind of try and look at many years past, this is also a branch that has changed their voting structure and format a few times. So there was like a point system that you could qualify with, and so it's you kind of have to really, like with almost any category, not look too far in the past to get an idea of where things might be in the present and future. But yes, that being said, I think the easiest way to break a category like this down is to look at what are the top tier films and who are the players that this group likes or has liked in the past. So yeah, that's Goranson and Alexander Desplat and Nicholas Britell. Volker Bertelmann is obviously a new favorite for them. Hans Zimmer. So you kind of pull from those, and it should sort of look like a makeup between here are some best picture frontrunners and contenders, and here are the people that we know that they like. And we'll get into a couple of those obviously when we get into song, because there
Mhm.
are definitely still some rubber stamps there.
Yeah, I started to laugh a little bit when you brought up Volker Bertelmann because most people I think know how I feel about his film scores in the past. And I made this outline listing all of the contenders and I conveniently left him off. So I do think the House of Dynamite score is a bit of recycled material with the Conclave score. It sounds very similar.
I would say more than a bit. It sounds almost like completely lifted from Conclave.
It really does. It's so, so similar. But yeah, Erik, I totally agree with you. I think that mix of, what are our strongest contenders in picture, and then how do the names of the composers or the scores that we're seeing from those films, how do they make sense as nominees? And then we can maybe get a little creative with some of the additional spots. But Karen, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with what's been said already. And I will also just say that, yeah, when I was watching House of Dynamite, I was like, why is this the Conclave score? I, I didn't even know Bertelman had done the score for it. And then I was listening to that and went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things I like about this branch, some people think it's chaotic. I think that it's evolving. And I think that that is something really fun. You don't, as you said, they don't just rubber stamp and, oh, well, we're going to just have this person who has been nominated 85 times automatically get in just because they did another score this year. I think that their willingness to expand and to look at people who are doing something different with film music makes this a really exciting category. So
Yeah, and on that point, I think that the rubber stamping. I look at somebody like Desplat for Frankenstein as a perfect example of somebody that hasn't been nominated in 5 years, but we would all assume would be because this guy's been nominated 11 times. He's won twice. You would think, oh, well, he's been in every single year he's been in, like to Josh's point, like John Williams, because John Williams, I mean, we never know when it's the last John Williams score, and they'll just throw him in there for like Indiana Jones 5, right? And you're like, why the hell did that need to happen? So it's very interesting. But to Erik's point and Josh's point, they have their sort of new favorites, or there's newer names, and they also line up with Best Picture contenders like Johnny Greenwood and definitely Ludwig Göransson, who has just come on the scene. I mean, this is a guy that's worked with Coogler and won an Oscar with Coogler before. He's a mainstay with Christopher Nolan and won for Oppenheimer as well. And so, but beyond those top two, there's really an interesting, I think, look at the rest of the category and seeing what could fill in, what would be eligible. That's the other thing too. Is like some films we think could be eligible, there's a lot of fighting behind the scenes to make sure that everything's eligible and lining up so that they can be on the short list. And that's the thing. The short list this year for this category, 20 different scores, which is great. I love a short list.
Love a short list.
And
20 is a bit much, though. I think
it's.
20
I
is way
agree,
too
Josh.
many
I'm like 15's probably better, but
Well, and
20
Song has 15.
I just want to get people's hopes up.
That's what it is. And then they're like, well, they're in 20th place, but can you talk to them? Like they really did a great job this year.
Save some feelings. Personally, that's what it
I
feels
think
like to
so.
me,
but a lot of veterans then, they make their way in there. Like I look at like somebody, for example, like Hans Zimmer for F1. I don't think he'll get in, a recent winner, but he will loom on a short list.
Good score for F1.
Very good score, And and then Sophia, your favorite, he could get one or two because he also has Ballad of a Small Player as well.
Gosh.
So he could take up 2 spots.
Don't terrorize me.
Me neither. God, that movie gave me a migraine from that.
I think that was the first movie on the Saturday morning we saw at Telluride, and I was just like, wow.
Don't need coffee to get woken up in the morning with that.
Yeah, for real.
Both of those scores are the proper definition of bombastic, which is misused way too much online.
Yes, it is.
Frequently. Yeah. Well, you bringing up this point about eligibility, the music branch is a little tricky there. Sometimes they, have especially the Academy. So we could see something maybe showing up with the Society of Composers and Lyricists or HMMAs, but then when we get to that short list or we learn news about what's eligible, we might be surprised. And often what will make something ineligible is pre-existing music, that being incorporated into the film. And so I do want to bring this up because I think we have a couple of examples actually here. So The Testament of Anne Lee, Daniel Blumberg did that score. He, of course, won last year for The Brutalist. But we have some pre-existing hymns that are used there. And then also Max Richter for Hamnet using a very prominent, piece of pre-existing music. I'm going to just say what it is because it's been mentioned in reviews. It is On the Nature of Daylight. And I'm bringing this up too because that is why the Arrival score was disqualified for that very piece of music. So what do you guys think about that? I'm sure the teams are on the case and people are involved, but I looked at the rules and yes, there is a percentage threshold, but then there's a little gray area in there in the rules of does it overwhelm the score? Does it diminish the effect of the score? And whenever you get into bits like that, that's where I think it becomes really tricky. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's exactly the issue for both of those films because they have lowered the threshold incredibly to qualify and to be eligible. But it is that second part where, and I've talked to both reps for Hamnet and Lee, and they literally have in-house lawyers working on this to see what is valid and what is eligible. So it is a big deal. It would be crushing if Hamnet's score did not make it because of using that song, that piece, because the score is incredible on its own.
Love that
and,
score.
as we've talked in private, I was like, I wish he had just done a reprise of some of the score in the film, which is absolutely stunning. That aside, we won't really know for maybe another couple of weeks because we will the shortlist voting starts pretty soon, and then it starts in a month, and then we'll have the actual shortlist on the 16th of December. But we'll know long before then for both of those titles if they have been nixed or not.
Yeah, I remember even back when Arrival came out and everybody was like, yeah, that score is good, but oh my God, that moment with On the Nature of Daylight was so effective. And even then I was thinking, guys, you are about to talk this movie into getting disqualified for its score, how much you keep emphasizing that. And eventually it happened. And I do think Hamnet runs the risk of doing the same thing. I I feel a little bit better about Hamnet just because I think overall its score is recognized a little bit more. It doesn't feel like that moment is getting quite so overshadowed. People are talking about like the performances and the emotion in that moment, not necessarily the music. So I think that one might be okay. And Lee is another interesting case because I don't know where that line exists of just completely like adaptation or reinvention of those hymns and how much it closely is aligned to the original music. I do think that's the more interesting case that I hope survives because I love the music to that movie, but I can understand both of those being very tricky.
Well, and Max Richter was also disqualified for Ad Astra because of using music from another composer it ended up not even being in the final score of the film, but because they had done that, it was disqualified too. So part of the reason that he has never been nominated is because he's had a couple of DQs along the way. I am a little bit at a disadvantage here because I have not seen Hamnet yet. However, I have listened to the pieces that are available, and it will break my heart if he doesn't get in again. I love him. I've had the privilege of talking to him a couple of times for different films, and the fact that he's still not an Oscar nominee is just like, come on, we got to get this done. So I'm rooting for him this year.
Yeah, the track of The Undiscovered Country is just lights out amazing. Tears well in my eyes when I listen to it without the film to accompany it, just on its own, sitting at my desk. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I did yesterday. I was listening to the 3 available tracks, and I was like, "What am I doing here? Why do I hate myself like this?" But
And 1 hour went by, and 2 hours went by, and 3 hours went by for Erik.
Basically.
I was laughing when Erik was talking, not about the information he was delivering, but just the idea of these two movies that are trying to get into like these last 3 spots, having like lawyers and and just like I can just imagine like the folders being passed around, Focus and Searchlight. It's just sounds very Keystone Cops to me. But
welcome to the awards campaigning, folks.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
this is real.
I'm just like,
this is what it's like.
We gotta get him so we can get him in the third. But like, no, I think that the other thing though about it, more so I agree with Josh. Like, I don't know the blurring of the line for Testament of Anley, as much as, I'm not as, familiar with those religious hymns as maybe others would
You
be.
don't have a ton of Shaker hymns on your
Well,
playlist?
it was a class I took in college, I guess. I don't remember. But the thing is with Hamnet and that use, again, into Josh's point, is like that is used at a very emotional, memorable moment of finality for a lot of the journey that we've gone on. And it's very mirroring of Arrival in a lot of ways. And if anyone knows about getting disqualified for previous material, it's our one of our lead contenders in Johnny Greenwood for There Will Be Blood many years ago.
Yep.
For
And
the
he
exact
is
same reason
and
with
he's kind of
classical
steered
music.
exactly, and so he's kind of steered away from doing that since. And so it I agree with Karen, though. Max Richter delivers some of the most beautiful scores of anyone's career over the last 10 years. But there's always this thing of like, when I've listened to Chloe and him and Q&As talk about why they use it, it's a frustrating conversational point of their collaboration, because it's like, well, they couldn't come up with why they didn't want to use it, and then so they just used it. And it was like, no, because to Eric's also point, use something else from this score that is already such beautiful music. And so it's a bit frustrating for those reasons. So that's why on those days, even if it makes the shortlist, if it doesn't get nominated, either one of these, I think that this is a point of conversation you can look back on and be like, that's why those missed in those categories.
I
Yeah.
mean, if it makes the short list, it should be fine. But again, thinking about how this category and how the branch has changed over the years, I think about Gustavo Santaolalla when he won for Brokeback Mountain, and then the very next year he won for Babel, which has an unbelievable amount of pre-existing music, and
Yeah.
his ability to win there was actually really surprising at the time because of that. But I think they're maybe a little bit stricter now.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they go back and
Stricter
forth
on
on it.
Richter.
All
But
right.
then this is the kind of conversation that comes up with films like Wicked, where that uses, it's pre-existing score from the stage, but then it somehow has enough new material to qualify the first year. We'll see about this year. And so it seems like sometimes the goalposts shift depending on the project and how the music is used.
It's the lowering of the threshold, because it used to be like 60 and 80%, and now it's like 35%.
Well, to Karen's point, that's how John Williams gets nominated for every Star Wars score. And you're like, wait, he's just using the same shit for half. He's got like one or two new songs, and then it's, the same opening and everything.
I was gonna ask what you guys thought about Wicked for Good actually here, and just its chances, and if you're considering it really and getting into the five, just because I think it was a little bit of a surprise last year when it got into score. I think for the reasons that we were talking about, we weren't quite sure what would be eligible or how that would work. And I think with this one, the dominant part of the conversation, I think, around Wicked will in part be about the music. There are two new original songs, which we'll talk about when we get into that category, but previous nominees here just from last year making a new score. Do we think that it has a shot at getting nominated? Do you guys have it in right now in your five?
I don't.
No, I think it'll get shortlisted, because since it is another entire film that they can create enough new score for it. It's happened with sequels before. Return of the King was able to get in. That's using themes. Again, it's sort of like any of these others. Reusing themes isn't the bad thing, but if it becomes the overarching feeling, then the branch can be like, no.
I don't have it in right now, but I definitely do not underestimate it, because I do think that part one getting in was a bit surprising to me. I really didn't think that was going to happen. So I can't count it out completely, because there's already precedent that it can make it. And, even at the precursor that we just talked about, it showed up, fairly well there too, including for the score. So I'm not going to count it out, but I do think I'm probably not in a position where I feel as strongly about it. But if it did slip in, I would be like, yeah, well, the last one got in, so makes sense.
even something like Dune 2 last year, which was the winner of the category before, and it did not make it in. And there is a lot of similarities in that music. And obviously there's new characters, new things that are added to it, different part of that franchise, but still it was not able to make it in there either. But to Eric's point, like it has come back around for other installments, but those are more like finalities in those franchises rather than, so that's kind of where Wicked's at, where it's in this weird stretch where it is a second film, but it is the finale, final part of it. So remains to be seen. But I think the conversation for that, Sophia, as you put it, would be an original song. So do those original melodies and song carry the weight for it to contend around and score? I just don't see it happening. And it's I think a stronger year for contenders this year than I think last year was. And it's not as new, this stuff, than it was for voters last year.
Yeah, I think the Dune 2 comparison is actually a really good point to think about. And I think just before we go to original song, just around the horn quickly, I'm curious if you all could vote for original score, who would your pick be?
Hamnet.
Shocking.
Just based on what you've heard, it doesn't need to be a prediction. I think because we've done a
you can
little
copy paste
predicting.
that answer for me for the rest of these podcasts.
I think I would go with Sinners. I actually think that's Ludwig's best score to date.
I would agree.
I love Sinners. I love the score. I would also vote for Max Richter just because.
Okay, Ryan, I think I know your answer in the same way I know Eric's.
Well, I mean, the layup answer could be one battle after another, and there are so many moments that make me cry. But I think I want to give like a shout out to Train Dreams. I think the score for Train Dreams is kind of immaculate. Just to try to be different, Sophia, I can, I would one battle every other category up in this world. But I also do like to spread the wealth some. But I think the Train Dreams score, in particular, is beautiful work.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing that you just did, which is like my chalk answer is obviously one battle, but I'm going to go Nicholas Britell for Jay Kelly. Just give him a little shout out because I really do like that score. Just to add another name to the mix, and just wait till you hear the Marty Supreme score. It is very fun.
Oh, I am looking forward to that.
He's a great example of somebody that could be the Daniel Lopatin, I think. Just an unknown in terms of this branch that could break through.
Yeah This is a hard one though. I would really have to think, which is why I asked you all, and then I totally cheated out of giving an actual answer to the question. So
that means the one battle score got no votes here.
Well, I really am voting for it. I'm just giving a shout out to someone else.
I mean that means it's going to win because we didn't mention it, and now it's going to win, and
It really got 2 votes here. We just had people that were embarrassed to keep admitting that they love the movie, so we wanted to name something different.
So original song, Dirty Work by Steely Dan.
Yeah. Wait, can we get it in? Rules, look at it.
Can we make an exception here?
No, Sophia, it's going to be Mo Bamba.
Oh yeah, Mo Bamba for
honestly
song.
bring back adapted song score. Bring that category back.
Yeah.
That's how Prince has an Oscar. And
yes.
That's how he should have one. So
well,
there
okay.
We go.
You okay. All right. That seemed aggressive and rude.
No, that wasn't an insult. He should have an Oscar. And it's because of that category, because it ended like the next year.
Yeah, it really did.
It did. I think
it did.
The proper amount of chaos that we have right now is right to move into original song, which is everyone's favorite category. I think we have a short list of 15, like we mentioned. I notably included in the outline the Diane Warren slot, which we do have a song from her this year. So I think in making our predictions, it is just wise. We know better at this point. We have to reserve a slot for her. So then in thinking of, and she has a song from this documentary, Relentless.
No, it's called Diane Warren Relentless. And that's actually really crucial because
that's true.
Names are not on any of these things, even though they
she put her name on it for a reason.
This is Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere. This is
Bingo.
I Want to Dance with Somebody. This is
Bob Marley, One Love. Yeah,
100%.
That's exactly 100%. What this is.
So yeah, we need to pencil in Dear Me from Diane Warren Relentless
It's like her writing a letter to herself, which is
I
crazy.
do have it in my number 5 spot.
Yeah.
I,
yeah,
I
you
have
have
it in
to.
too. We have
I
it.
kind of
Warren
think
should always be
I
number
kind of think
5.
it should be higher if you're just doing nomination predictions, not winning
honestly-
predictions. She should be the number 1 lock because you know it's going to happen, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean she's going to win. It just means that it's inevitable. You know,
She
The
should be number
only-
1.
That is not a bad point. The only reason that I'm like, I don't know, is that she finally got the honorary Oscar. So maybe that makes them feel like they can back off a little bit
Karen,
now.
Okay,
I'm going to tell you this. I saw her at Middleburg. She's not stopping. That train will never end for her.
Yeah.
It only
It should
fueled
be
her.
called
It
Diane
only,
Warren nonstop.
yeah.
Diane Warren never stopped stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, no,
But
that
they-
honorary Oscar doesn't do anything because she got the honorary Oscar, and then wasn't it the same year as Applause from
Yeah.
Tell It Like a Woman?
Yes,
movie that
and
absolutely
she
doesn't
just
exist.
got in last year again for
True.
the Netflix movie that doesn't exist
Yeah, so it will
with
never
Kerry
stop.
Washington.
My commitment to needing to watch every single Oscar nominee, the Diane Warren slot for that too. Like the fact that I have seen Tell It Like a Woman 4 good days, right? These movies that just leave my
Yeah.
mind the second they end.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that being Diane
it's-
Warren
I
Relentless.
forgot both of those movies existed until you just mentioned them,
Yeah.
even though I
It's
have
my-
seen both of them.
Again, her
It's
level
'cause-
of commitment, you guys, is
They,
strong.
they don't actually exist, Karen. It's the Mandela effect.
Yeah. My yearly
Seriously.
Oscar tradition is always I watch the Diane Warren song nominee like 3 hours before the Oscars happen. I literally save it to like the very last minute so I can
That-
say I've seen
that's
everything. But it's
interesting.
always the very last thing that I watch. Day of the
I always
Oscars.
watched Casablanca before, but I think yours is a hell of a lot funner, and it's really interesting that those are our traditions.
I love a good Oscar Sunday tradition. Mine is
Yeah.
always to watch my favorite Best Picture nominee. I'll just watch that again that day. And
Okay.
so I think in thinking about the rest of the category, we have 2 big movies that have submitted 2 songs apiece. So Sinners, we have I Lied to You and Last Time I Seen the Sun. And for Wicked, we have No Place Like Home and The Girl in the Bubble, which is a very funny title, I think, for a song. But
Sounds
stopping,
like Jake Gyllenhaal would be
It-
singing that. Bubble Boy.
oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah, I got the reference. That was
welcome.
not. It did not elude me.
I wouldn't expect it to. But I think there's a huge song that's very popular that's stopping these 2 films from doubling up alongside Diane Warren, and that is Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. This is the song and the movie that I think in my life, really outside of this, people are talking about. And it just got a Song of the Year nomination at the
Yes, it
Grammys.
did.
Didn't it get
So-
3 Grammy nominations?
They got 3 Grammy
5.
nominations. 5.
5.
Yeah.
5.
Crazy.
Mhm.
So I think just, yeah, how do we see the rest of the categories shaking out? I'm sure we all have Golden in. We clearly all have Dear Me in. What are some other songs we're expecting to see here?
I think I Lied to You is definitely in, not only just because of it being a really good song, but because it is a defining moment within Sinners, which is a top tier contender. And, that has Ludwig Göransson and Miles Canton attached to it as well. And the creation with that with Coogler. I think I Lied to You is right up there with Golden. I mean, like Golden to me, and this is no shot at any of the other 14, contenders that'll get on the short list, but this is over. Like that song, it's one of those years where like the animated song that dominates the top chart, where we used to like in the 80s and 90s have like songs right on the top of the charts that would also correlate with the Oscar. It's got this great package. Animated feature is literally going to already engraved with K-pop Demon Hunter all over it. And so this is a great package for it. And yeah, kids and TikToks and online, it gives that like the Encanto kind of vibes to it, where it's like, but this one's actually going to get nominated. Like we need to talk about Bruno, where like everybody is talking about it. And to Netflix's credit, while they have premiered their other films at other festivals and other places, they have taken the songwriters and the artists everywhere they can to keep this song on people's minds and on voters' minds. So, and they usually do like an annual showcase of all their music. and they just did that recently, I believe, in Los Angeles. And this was the final note on the night, was an acoustic version of Golden, which, you know, from the video itself looked beautiful. So yeah, it'll be great to kick off the Oscars with Golden. That live performance. I think, no, I'm being serious. I think it'll be
Mhm.
great. And I think kind of recreating I Lied to You would be awesome too.
Yeah.
I think something interesting that happened though with the Grammys is they nominated 3 songs from Sinners,
Yeah, they
which
did.
was
Yeah.
pretty incredible. I Lied to You, obviously, but also Sinners, titular song, and Pale Pale Moon. What
Yeah.
did not show up was Last Time I Seen the Sun. That was a really big surprise, but also for me, it's a red flag because these are songwriters too. It also is what makes Golden's Song of the Year nomination so rock solid now, because I think everyone was expecting it in Record of the Year, which really goes to the song and the performers. Song of the Year is a songwriting award, which is not what most people expected for Golden. So that just really kind of
Mhm.
seals it in a way. And with the HMMAs, it was, you know, I Lied to You and Last Time I Seen the Sun. So I feel a little iffier about that second pick
Mhm.
from Sinners.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't always make the right selection. You know, Ryan, you bringing up Encanto is a great example of that. Like the team behind it doesn't pick the right song, or here maybe they didn't for Sinners pick the right 2 songs, or one song is just so much stronger, and that's just going to be the one that we see. We don't always see that double nomination, even for a strong movie.
And even with I Lied to You, like if this was a couple years ago, I actually would be kind of nervous about it because one thing that song does is that it has a pretty consistent like build up and then it breaks for something very visual, which normally was like a
Mhm.
big no-no for the branch. I feel like it's not quite as much of a hindrance anymore, but I remember a few years ago they would hate it if you like took a break from your song to do like a big dance number. Like those songs never made it in. But I think now, especially with the strength of the movie, it's in a better position. But I also don't think it's going to be a double nominee either.
Well, like Not To really did
Yeah,
that. You know,
that's why I was
that's
nervous about that
yeah.
song, and it managed to persevere, but it definitely had me concerned.
I think with a film like Sinners, there's going to be a lot of people wanting to nominate it wherever they can, and I think it's going to have a lot of nominations. And I think it makes sense to me that it ends up with one song, especially because I mean, I'm not saying there's tons of great options instead, but I think that where there's a consensus around I Lied to You from across the board because of the fact that there is so much visually happening in that moment in the movie. So everyone who goes to see it, when they get to that song, that moment, or just, you know, highlighting the art of the film, the cinematography, the costume design, the production design, and the music all together, that's going to be the reel that people see over and over and over again. And it's really easy to build a consensus around that song. And I think the fact that there's not a consensus around another option, including Last Time I Seen the Sun, tells me that it's probably not going to be a double nominee in this category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is spot on. I Lied to You is just kind of easier for everyone to coalesce around and to support. And we're already starting to see the signs of it, like we've talked about. And I think with Wicked for Good, none of us have seen this yet. So it's hard to say, I think, for the songs. But from what I've heard, The Girl in the Bubble is the song that is obviously tied to Glinda and tied to Ariana Grande. So that for me feels like the stronger of the two. No Place Like Home has a good title, I think. I mean, it's obviously it's Wizard of Oz connections. It's right there, but I think I feel better at least about The Girl in the Bubble in who it's tied to and just in what people have said about Ariana Grande and her performance in the movie too.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the song that I've actually heard about. Really, I haven't really heard a
Hmm.
lot about the other
Yeah.
one
And
from first
they
reactions.
performed both the songs in the special that just aired,
Right.
Yes, they did.
which I know a
That's
lot of
true.
people are not watching so that they can hear the 2 songs
Oh,
in
please.
That's what
context
Hmm.
I
in the
do.
film
I never
first.
Hmm.
hear a song until I watch it in the movie first. So I have no idea what these songs sound like, even though I know they're out there.
Yeah, I only watched the non-new songs of the
Yeah.
special, and
Hmm.
I mean it was pretty fucking incredible, but
The Judy Garland, Barbara
I,
Streisand. Yes.
unreal. Anyone that like even accidentally watched that is like 50% gayer now.
That's the
It's
rules.
by just osmosis.
I really want to know who actually watched that video just to see the people that are now 50% gayer.
They did. It was like a
no, I do.
Gay.
I do think listening to both, like, I think the girl in the bubble is the right one. I mean, it also, if Ariana Grande is this runaway winner for supporting actress, this is her moment, right? This is her big moment, and she'll be able to sing on the telecast, which that would be big for 2 years in a row for that to happen. But I don't think that they're going to get both in, and Diane Warren gets that fourth spot, and then we get kind of a really fun fifth spot that we can debate here, and because I think that that's or kind of hope predict what we would love to be in this spot.
You can kind of do it with song though, because they can throw in some wild cards with that.
They have some fun
spot.
stuff every now and then.
Yeah, they
do.
I'll say with the HMMAs, Wicked for Good and Sinners did very well, but F1 also did well there.
Erik, which one do you have at the top? It's like Lose My Mind.
Lose My Mind. Yeah.
I think that, and they're really great songs and they go really well with the film.
I don't know. Tate McRae Oscar nominee just doesn't sound right for me.
It doesn't sound right. Well,
I would be crazy.
I thought they missed an opportunity.
It would really be crazy.
Because I thought the Chris Stapleton song was really wonderful.
Everyone
and it was the best one.
In early predictions had that as the top one, and it's insane that it's not.
But Ed Sheeran, we got to make that happen, so. But I think that one's, that one's really big. And then I go back to what I said in score. I think the Train Dream song, which was added at TIFF, that's one that you could possibly, consider if that movie is climbing up and people are watching it and seeing it. It's once again another beautiful in note sort of song that you.
And that's Nick Cave.
And if you're still thinking about like last year, since Sing Sing got into this category, kind of surprisingly, same filmmakers behind it, I think that's the reason why people might be thinking about Train Dreams here.
Yes. And the Dessner of it all too, being attached to it. I'm also, I just wish that Trunks from Highest to Lowest could be considered. That would be my winner of the category, the A$AP Rocky song.
I do think Highest to Lowest is actually a contender here. I think that
I think so too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I do think we can't totally count out Disney here though, with the Zootopia 2 song.
Zoo for Zootopia.
Yeah,
that's Shakira, right? Again,
and she had
it's a fun song.
She had the what was it, like the opening
Try
track,
Everything.
Try Everything. It didn't get nominated, but man, I remember that being like such a big streamer and everything.
I was working in a movie theater at the time. Yes, that song was big.
Like, it's she can make a great earworm better than anybody else, and so. And it goes along with the K-pop Demon Hunter of it all, where it's just like these bigger songs that could catch on. And I do think Zootopia 2, to your point, Karen, I think that's going to be a really big film come the holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was really popular. People loved it. It ended up winning. And I know a lot of people are really excited about it this year. And where K-pop Demon Hunters has kind of run away with everything, Disney's going to be fighting for any nomination they can get for Zootopia. So I think this is where they can, I don't think they'll win, but I think this is one of the spots where they're hoping to get nominated. So.
Erik, are you excited about Miley Cyrus doing an original song for the new Avatar film?
I was gonna just bring that up.
I don't think excited is the right word.
Elated?
That I would choose.
Yeah, excited isn't big enough.
It's not. That's too small because it's Big Jim, so you got to get it big. It's got to be huge.
I will say though, she's collaborating with Mark Ronson, so it is not.
It is
totally
something to
out
consider.
Of the question. We have to consider it, I think, and it did get a nomination at the HMMAs.
And that movie is guaranteed to at least make $1 billion.
Yes, but the HMMAs also have like 6 categories.
They have too many categories. Get
everybody in.
The ultimate
we haven't even discussed the hot mess of the HMMAs this year of One Battle not being in the initial list.
And then the random film that did get in.
I emailed them and I'm like, this is strange. Let me ask you some questions. Were these scores eligible? Were they submitted in time? And there were all of these responses back. Oh no, there was a mistake in the entry process, and One Battle's there, but Unsinkable Molly Brown or Boy or whatever that movie is now not nominated. And then I got an email from the reps of that movie that said, we are trying to get it back in. I'm like, what in the satellite awards is going on right now? A mess.
It was, that was something else. I was, topically heading into a screening of The Testament of Anne Lee when I saw those nominations and just thought, where is one battle after another? But okay, I don't really understand this group.
That was a crazy morning, not ocean waves. It was a tidal wave.
I mean, Sophia, to your point also about Testament of Anne Lee and its eligibility, it does have Clothed by Sun, by the Sun here, and that's another one where it's like, if it's eligible, I because it is a musical, and if Cypher can get in, and what is that movie's total, and what is its path to get stuff, that could be something that like breaks, if people do see it. And I mean, Searchlight is great; they're always great at pushing their films, and this was an acquisition, and Amanda's doing all the campaigning along with Mona right now. But again, it's all going to come down to eligibility, I think, for that film as well. So I have that in the 6 to 10 range.
Me too.
But going back to Josh's point, that highest to lowest, the song, the choice of song, the titular song that they use for that film, which is like a literal scene at the end of the film where Denzel's like, "Show me what you got." And they have the songwriters and the performer, and pardon for not remembering who it was, they have been kind of everywhere as well too, along with the K-pop Demon Hunters. They were part of like the songwriters Q&A over at Middleburg, and they were at Savannah. So they've been pushing that, like A24's been quietly pushing that to happen. So I don't know if it'll pay off, but it is one to keep an eye out. That's the only song really that they've pushed out of that film, and they've got a couple, but that's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one.
I think before moving on to just our quick check-in on picture and director, any other songs that we didn't mention that you all think might have a shot at getting in that you want to either advocate for or just mention briefly?
I'll mention, but not advocate necessarily, because
Careful.
one thing that the HMMAs do is in their breakdown, because they have feature film, independent, documentary, animated, in score and song. So it does kind of highlight, especially documentary, where we might find some titles that are likely to at least land on the short list. And a couple that I want to mention are Salt Then Sour Then Sweet from Come See Me in the Good Light. That's an Apple doc, and it's from Sarah Bareilles and Brandy Carlisle. So I would keep an eye on that. And then the other one, which I am loathing to be included in this, would be Have You Seen My Light from October 8th, which is the Zionist documentary that is executive produced by Deborah Messing.
Oh, your best friend.
She's been too busy
any
crashing
fans?
out.
Yeah, exactly. I
Been
don't
a
know how
rough
much
week for her.
campaigning she's gonna be doing for this, since she is a crumbled mess on the
Well, look at
floor.
how the campaigning worked out for her this week.
Exactly. So I would just kind of put those on the back burner, because doc songs can get in. Even though we obviously have Diane Warren here.
Yeah. Another one that I was going to mention in that same kind of thing to just look out for is that there's Dying to Live, the Billy Idol song, which is co-written by Jay Ralph, who not so much a mainstay anymore, but there was a period there where I remember being like, I'm predicting this because it's Jay Ralph, and it ended up happening. So, like, again, he's not really getting nominated quite as frequently as before, but because he had that run, I don't ever completely discount him.
That's a good call out.
I have one more, and I know that it's so weird, but they are mainstays mostly in the score category. They didn't get in last year for challengers, but they're going under the 9 Inch Nails label of it all. And I do think that As Alive as You Need Me, at the premiere for that movie, which tanked at the box office, they had a full-on concert. They've been doing a lot of press for it. I would consider them in and around the mix. And to Karen's point, it doesn't always have to be animated for Disney. They have this Oscar-winning duo to go and lean on. So I'd consider that in the mix of, we don't want to nominate multiple sinners, multiple wickeds. If both of that doesn't happen, then that could be a fun inclusion.
Yeah. Love Nine Inch Nails. We could get a really eclectic mix of
I
songs, I
wish.
think, in this
I
this
wish that
lineup.
I want alternative music in. Like, why didn't that song for White Noise?
The LCD
Um,
sound system one, my favorite
yeah,
of the year. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
that
was
should
Yeah.
such
have
a good.
won.
That
Should
should
have
have
won.
won. That would have been a
Oh,
great performance. Yeah.
Yes,
There
it
are
it would
would.
have been
interesting
so
options
fun.
to go with, but the other thing I'm noticing about this category, it's like everybody has Golden, everybody has a Wicked song, everybody has a Sinner song, which is probably the same ones, and then there's the Diane Warren spot. So it feels like we're really only predicting one song in the
Exactly.
Yeah.
category.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah. I don't disagree with you,
And
Josh.
it's going to be Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It probably will. I guess
What a
technically Avatar would be the
wow.
Disney pick too.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's
would.
true.
Yeah.
Karen's right.
But
Yeah.
we could just as well be saved by a Diane Warren nomination by getting two Sinners, two Wickeds, and K-pop. That could
True.
happen.
No,
I don't think
Diane's
it's
But
gonna
we
gonna
happen.
know
no.
she's getting in.
I don't
Her
think it's
name
going
is
to,
literally on the title here.
Yeah.
that's
Even
why I
if
said it.
in the
She's
voting booth.
securing the bag with that title.
She knows. She's like, oh, directors can't put their name on the card. Well, my film's gonna have my fucking name
Yeah.
on it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to watch it. Let's get into picture and director now. So, like I said at the top, we talked about picture and director back on an editor's episode in September. At that time, we were all on the same page that the 1 and 2 films really were One Battle After Another and Hamnet. And director, I think there's a little bit more to talk about there. I think just with how you want to rank the nominees or consider them. But I'll just start by saying that I'm in the exact same place that I was in September and even before that. Right now, I'm predicting One Battle After Another to win Best Picture, with Hamnet really as our runner-up, and then Paul Thomas Anderson to take home Best Director. Ryan, I'll kick it over to you first. Are you kind of in the same place since you were in September?
Am I kind of in the same place?
I mean,
Yeah, it hasn't changed. No, wavering here on the pick so far. I mean, I think that when we talked about that, I mean, there has been an exhausting amount of conversation about what the box office for that movie is and what it will be. And, I said that even if it doesn't make money, make its money back, it's going to be a $200 million film, which is something a Paul Thomas Anderson movie has never been able to do. It will be right up there with as some of the more profitable, more like I would guess just money making films of the season here, with like Sinners and Wicked that actually made money, as opposed to a lot of these films which are getting released and sort of just, getting a couple million here and there. Though like something like Begonia actually did decently well this weekend, but then there's like Die My Love and some of this other stuff that hasn't. But I have seen nothing to suggest that my pick should change, other than I do think that One Battle has a lot of passion. Hamnet has a lot of these audience awards that have been happening at the festivals, and so I just think that those are the two films, and PTA. Yeah, I feel like even if Hamnet does come around and win Best Picture, I think if anything, One Battle's walking away with the director win. It feels kind of inevitable. He is, with talking with talent, when seeing talent talk online, that film and he have been talked about in such reverence. I think that it's one of those like it's his time kind of Oscars. And I know that's sort of weird because we've done this 11 times with him, but I truly think that this is that moment for PTA.
Yeah, and I think we talk about this with specific films where you watch it and you just kind of have in your mind like the person or the thing that you're focused on, or kind of who is the hero of this project, of this film. And for me, with One Battle After Another, it was okay, this is a directorial achievement, like the place to reward this film. And I think there are many, but for me, it was just okay, this is a Best Director winner. And that's kind of where I've really stayed on it. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, the minute I saw the road scene in One Battle After Another, my first thought was, well, that's PTA's Oscar for Best Director right there. Like I felt very secure about that. And as it's gone on, it really does feel like these are two categories where the more interesting conversation is, what are the other nominees going to be? Because
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's so very clearly building around this narrative for Paul Thomas Anderson. And which I'm happy about. Like, I'm actually glad that we're going to be entering a season of coronation for him, and it's not just like a coin toss as to whether or not he will or won't win something. I much rather have this, and I think that's what the mood of the season is going to be. And I haven't seen any evidence to really change my position right now. Like, I know Hamnet, yes, is doing very well with festivals, but I think the narrative around PTA is just going to be too hard to ignore, along with the movie, doing decent business, not setting the world on fire, but for a PTA movie, doing very well. So yeah, I think it's going to be good.
And Karen, I know you're not a huge PTA fan, so I'm curious, I think, just in what you think of the season and how you see picture and director shaking out.
Not a huge fan is putting it very mildly. But
You're the
no,
opposite of me on this. That's okay.
I
It's good to have
really
different
am.
perspectives.
I'm not a fan at all. But that being said, I also, as I was watching one battle after another, I was watching it going, well, this is probably the best picture winner. And I'm actually okay with that because I think this is one of his more accessible films for a wider audience. It makes sense to me that this has his biggest budget, that it got his biggest release, because I think that he made a movie that a lot, like a wide cross section of people can watch it and connect with it. It's very entertaining. Leonardo DiCaprio is great. Sean Penn is great. Like everybody is really good in it. It's got the crafts, everything about it. I have some squibbles with the screenplay, but I think everything else, I think it really comes together well. And I think that it also captures kind of how we're all feeling this year, which I think a best picture winner tends to do in some way
Mhm.
or another. And so I really do see this being the movie of the year. And I'm honestly okay with watching Paul Thomas Anderson this year just march to double Oscars because I think he deserved it. I think he made a film that really does understand where we're at and how to connect with everybody. So
Maybe
Wow.
maybe triple Oscars.
could be.
Could be.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's amazing. I'm gonna consider that
Wrap up
praise
the
from
show
you,
now.
and I
Wrap
love
it up
it.
now.
This is kind of how I felt when I saw it
Clip
get
it.
an A cinema score, and I was like, I never expected this for a PTA movie, and here we are. That has to be a sign of something different, really, with this one.
Mhm.
Erik, I know, like we've talked a lot about One Battle and Hamnet. Are you still in the same place with One Battle that we were a few months ago?
Now I'm fully on board with Wicked for Good and John Chu winning. So that's pretty clearly
He's got
happening.
CC
Choice
in
of
the
word.
bag.
There we
He's got it in the
Exactly.
bag.
I'm
No,
very proud of how
I
predictive that is.
yes, I think Karen's comments are incredibly indicative of why and how PTA and One Battle can win and will
Mhm.
win because it has crossed over really all the quadrants. And certainly if you come into the movie with a feeling about him or his films and then come out of it with this sort of feeling of undeniability and not in a derogatory way. I don't think there is anything more convincing than something like that. So I think that's what Karen just said really I think is the thing that shows exactly why this is the film of the year.
I think so too. And, Josh, you pointing out that the other nominees are maybe more interesting to talk about in director. I'm curious who you guys have really filling out your five. I know right now for me, I have Chloe Zhao. I also think that Jafar Panahi is really strong for It Was Just an Accident too. And then I think it gets a little bit trickier because I think there are a lot of places where we could see some different people nominated. I think Ryan Coogler for Sinners is one of those names. Joachim Trier for Sentimental Value, of course. There are quite a few people I think we could see filling out those slots. I'll go right back to you, Erik, with how you see Best Director right now.
Yeah, this is very much like Picture where you have 1 2 and then everybody else is kind of like scrambling around and we'll see how it turns out. I don't know how I feel exactly about Ryan Coogler's chances. I will probably keep him in my top 5 until there's a reason not to. I don't want to put too much emphasis on him being vocal about not wanting to be in the Academy. I think obviously, yes, there will be directors who will respond to that negatively, but I don't want that to be like such an overwhelming reason that I drop him. Panahi is just rising and rising every day, and so is Del Toro. The response to Frankenstein after Venice and Telluride has been such a turnaround. And I'm not even like a following Letterboxd to dictate my predictions person, but that score rose instead of fell once it hit Netflix, which is a really rare thing. So I think he is rising. I see Marty Supreme next week. So I'll see how I feel about Safdie's chances here. But I think any name outside of those and Trier aren't really in play.
I got one name that might be in play, and that is Kleber Mendoza Filo for The Secret Agent.
Yeah.
I'm just getting the feeling about that movie that it's not like universally praised, but those who love it really love it. And especially with the director's branch, feels like just a choice they would absolutely go for. So I'm not predicting him right now, but I think he should be taken more seriously in this race.
I was on that train for a little bit, but what I'm hearing and seeing now is a less enthusiastic response to the film than earlier in the season. So I'm a little dubious of Philo.
That one's hard. I had him in my predictions actually right after Cannes because Josh, for the same reasons that you just said, it just feels like such a classic director's branch passion vote. And that movie is a directorial flex. There are a lot of really cool choices in it that I could see members of that branch, especially international voters, I think really wanting to advocate for him there. And I think the interesting thing this year is that we're not going to have the BAFTA nominations
Yeah.
before the Oscar nominations. So
Sucks, by the way.
so if Coogler
love
is
it.
snubbed, we won't have a clue from BAFTA if that would have
Well,
happened
Coogler will,
there.
if he gets
Well, that was
Right,
never happening there.
That's not
but
happening
yeah.
there, but we wouldn't have that, I think, additional indicator. And,
Yeah.
sometimes BAFTA is what gives us those clues of who could surprise and pop up in director, like Vinterberg or, these other Usland, these other names that we kept seeing that I think surprised some people. But for, I think, us who are eagle-eyed with the director's branch, we kind of looked at those and said, oh, that's a sign. Somebody's going to miss and people are
Another
going to be
opportunity
really
to-
unhappy.
Yeah, another opportunity to mention that we called Uslan. Yeah, we'll take it.
Yep. Oh, we did. Yeah. You and I'll always do that.
Yep.
I'm not ready to count out John M. Chu for Wicked, honestly. I think that I have him kind of right there, but I think with a part 2 of a movie that did really, really well, and I'm sure the sequel is going to do well too, and I think it's probably going to bring in some text, and I just don't see, not that I don't see, I definitely can see him not getting in, but I also see a world where people go, you know what, we didn't do this last year, we need to include him this year.
If he appears this season at the Oscars, like we'll see him at DGA first for sure. Like that's where we're going to see that happen because that's the group that I think is most likely to recognize him. I mean, aside from CCA, obviously, but I think we could really see him at DGA if Wicked for Good is strong. Ryan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I haven't really changed my predictions for like a month or two, honestly. I think that PTA is winning this, and his challenger, to Erik's point, is not Chloe Zhao. It's actually Jafar Panahi. I think what that movie has shown in its ability with Neon to campaign him, and I just thought the move of them, I said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago, like the move of getting him back into the country to do the interviews, to go to Middleburg, to stay in New York with the conversation with Scorsese was like, wow. That is, and it's selling at Alice Tully Hall. Like that is a huge thing. And also, this is a guy that has not been in New York for 25 years. This is a guy that hasn't been over here in close to 2 decades. And in my conversation I had with him on the website that released this past week, it was when you hear him talk, he's talking about very serious matters that I think still even like our fears here in America really reflect in his film. And yet he chose to make a film that's about forgiveness. It's the Palme d'Or winner, which also has had an incredible track record over the last couple of years with the Academy. So I think he's right there. I think Chloe Zhao's there. Eric's absolutely right. Del Toro is climbing by the day to the point where I'm starting to feel like it's going to happen, like he's going to get in. Nightmare Alley did sneakily well when we all kind of counted that out. This movie's done, really well since Venice, and even still more from Telluride. I think once it got to Toronto, and then during AFI when it got him to do those conversations there, and I actually went to the Egyptian and saw a screening of Frankenstein, and it was sold out mid-afternoon. Those rare screenings that Netflix let them do, they were selling out. The Q&As are all sold out. They're all full. And he is a master campaigner. I remember watching and going to some events for Pinocchio, and I was like, man, all he has to do is bring out those dolls and make a move, and people were going apeshit for him. And so I think that this is slowly become Netflix's big player. And then Joachim Trier for a movie that everybody loves and was pretty close to winning the Palme d'Or itself and has done really well and is a top tier, top 4 contender. And I don't think Ryan Coogler is going to get in. I don't think he's going to get in at BAFTA. I think he's actually going to be the DGA nom that gets there. And then we're sitting here on the morning and we're like, wait, they passed by C. What do you mean? Coogler's not there, and everyone.
Well, technically they want to pass by.
Well,
S.
it'll be movie.
Yeah.
It'll be
That's
yeah.
what's going to be tricky
alphabetically.
for it is that Secret Agent, Sinners, and Sentimental Value are all kind of in that same cluster.
They're in that
of
same
when
cluster.
Nominations will be read. So
And
it's going to be
so-
like, who's it going to be?
Well, by the time you get to Sentimental Value, in my predictions, there would be 5, and that's it. So you would know that at that point. I think that
what's scary? If it skips both and it starts with Sentimental, then Wicked is in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. It's like I think Karen's not far off from the fact that, if this becomes a giant phenomenon, again, and sticks its landing for most people, though the tracking for it is the money wise is not as strong as the first one. I believe
It's gonna explode,
it's exactly
though.
the same as the first one.
It's not exceeding those
115
expectations.
to 120.
But I think it's more. I think that movie's still going to be more like if it has a shot above the line, it's Ariana Grande. It'll have it shot below the text. I don't think that it'll get in because honestly, the passion for it last year, you would have thought he would have got in last year. But every year is different. I think the other name you can consider, and I'm just throwing him out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if James Cameron wows them,
oh my God,
then he is not somebody that you can count out. And I think that is a name that you can throw out there too.
I think he is because there are more avatars coming. So why in the world would this even happen?
I don't know because they're dealing with fire this time, baby.
Because you're a dick rider for Big Jim. That's why.
What I think is that movie is a visual, just stunning piece of achievement. And he's been already talking this year for that book of his, so he's out there, and it's something to consider. I don't think it's going to happen because I think that The Secret Agent, even though that movie is falling down the list, that's a movie then I think that once the branch gets it, it can do really well. I would obviously love to have Ryan Coogler nominated. I think what his work in Sinners is phenomenal. Yes. The idea that we've been 98 years in the Academy and a black male or female director has never won this category it says a lot about history. And yet this movie, most of its business was in the United States. I don't see BAFTA going for it. The international crowd of it would have to show passion there at a certain point. And again, we're not going to know about that passion if it has it for it until after the fact. And I sadly tend to believe then that it has to be carried by the guilds. And yeah, when you've got comments on the record for Ryan Coogler not wanting to be an Academy member, and he's changed reps and all these different things this season, like there's a chance that, it's a Dune Part 1 where it's a ton of crafts and maybe, in the screenplay, and then it misses in director and actor and makes it into picture, and it's got 10 or 9 or 8, but it doesn't have those other two. And then that's when all five of us are going to delete the Twitter app because none of us are going to want to be on that online that day when it burns down to the ground.
That's why you got to say it now. This is like
I
when
know
Barbie happened, and like I was trying to warn people all season, like if you think the director's branch, which is notoriously anti like anything commercial, like that's the big thing with Sinners for me is that it reads as a big commercial movie, which the branch just normally doesn't really like all that much. Yeah, and that's why I worry about Coogler and why I think people should be prepared for that possibility of him not getting nominated.
And I told Sophia this early in the season. It was like, to me, the more button-up, usual pick this Academy would pick if you're going to do a genre monster film is Frankenstein, from someone that they have awarded and trust and is a member of the Academy, as opposed to this vampire film that came out in April. While a stunning film, I just know how that branch and this Academy think, and I hope that they're wrong. I hope that they've changed since the last couple of years, but recent memory.
I don't hope they change too much because that messes with my predictions.
I know, but recent memory with Warner Brothers properties like that have suggested otherwise. Even Dune Part 2 last year, people were like, overdue, and it didn't happen.
For me, the comp has always been of why I'm worried about Coogler. It's been Villeneuve missing for Dune. That was, winning in multiple technical categories that year. And when it happened, like when I saw the director nominations, I didn't even notice at first that this happened. It was that crazy, I think, of a miss. So yeah, I sadly wouldn't be surprised, but I think, we have a long season ahead of us. It is only early November right now. And while we think it's a coronation year and things will be smooth sailing, I think we will have some drama in some other categories, or just with people, I think, trying to stir the pot in disingenuous ways, as we've already started to see. I think that is coming.
I was going to mention that. I know we're long on time, but
go for it.
Earlier, Sophia, you used the word heroes, and the opposite of that is a villain. And we are now seeing what we see almost every year, and that is the creation of a villain that might stand in the way of your favorite film, whether that is One Battle After Another or Sinners, because early in the year, Sinners was the pick and what everybody was behind because it came out in spring. Then One Battle came in and dominated, and people got mad, and One Battle sort of became a very short run villain to Sinners. And now we have Hamnet being painted as the villain for both, but mostly One Battle. And it's something that's happens almost every year, and it's equally frustrating every time that it happens, because something like Hamnet is not a green book. It is a well-respected, well-reviewed film, but people need this sort of politics level, us versus them, one or the other fight in order to kind of push the way through the season. And it's frustrating, but it is a part of the season almost every year.
It is. And I'm not going to get into, I think, the specifics of what frustrated me about the clickbait that was going around. But what I will say, just on the surface, kind of dancing around it, is that most people have not seen this movie yet. So to put something out like that too, it's not coming out until the end of this month, here into December in other markets, and even later into January in some other countries. So the fact that you are just already putting that seed out there, I think, is what makes it just a bit unfair and gross, honestly. I'll just say that.
I think that it's the article is bullshit. And I think that as someone that loves both One Battle After Another and Hamnet, which at the time I saw it at Telluride, I told Erik and Sophia, it's like, that's my favorite film of the year. There's only one film that could maybe top it, and it did. And yet those are two of my favorite films of the year. I don't think I need to compete as to which one I want to win Oscars. Like, if either one won, I mean, I would love PTA to have something, but Chloe Zhao made an incredible film. And yet at Telluride, we were already seeing the rumblings and the sexism from male pundits come out with the breathing exercises, and then they continue to tiff about the meditation and what Chloe and the genuine earnestness that Chloe Zhao was trying to present the film. And this only continues that. And it also is very, very, very poor looking on a publication to print something that paints the movie about a family from this Academy Award winning female director against these two more male centric films directed by men. And to say that those movies are beloved and those are the movies that everybody's favorites, and that this other film is going to come in here and ruin that. And to Sophia, your point, it hasn't even been released. Most of the general audiences hadn't seen it. To build this negative buzz is bullshit. And so then, honestly, it could backfire, and then it could bring sympathy to a movie sometimes, because then people are like, you're telling me this is bad? Well, I would say every fucking audience award that it's won says it's otherwise. So I was very disturbed by the language in the full article. The idea, you know, Erik has talked about it with other films in other years, that there are villains and there are heroes, and we just did a giant retrospect last week about one of the biggest villains of all time in Crash versus Brokeback Mountain or Capote or Munich or any of the other films that could have eaten, like, we would be fine with. I mean, we would love Brokeback to win that, but there's 4 other great films, and then there's a piece of shit. That's not what Hamnet is. It's a beautiful piece of cinema that is one of the best reviewed films of the year. It's just not like, you know, what's a bad movie? This is not like The Smashing Machine winning, you know, becoming the best feature frontrunner. You know what I mean? This is not like Song Sung, or, you know, I was going to say Song Sung Blue, but to the point of, like, I don't think it's that bad, but something that isn't in the 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and isn't, you know, high on Metacritic, and that feels more like a traditionalist pick for the Academy. This would still be a very out there pick to win Best Picture, because Chloe Zhao does not make conventional films. So I just thought it was bullshit.
I would just like to jump in here and say that I know it's important to keep up with what the conversations are, but the award season is so much more enjoyable being off Twitter.
Yeah, it is.
I have not been on Twitter in over a year. Occasionally a tweet will cross my view, you know, and I'll look at it, but the calm that I feel and just being able to talk about the movies without having to worry about shit like that is so freeing, and I love it.
But
And
Karen,
I highly recommend it.
That's a great tip.
I mean, Karen, you're absolutely right. But we saw an entire campaign derailed by past tweets that surfaced from an actress last year. And I'm not saying that it happens every year, but there are some, I think to your point, there are certain things that are actual controversies, and then there's an actual controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'd have to see, based off audience reactions and when it goes into theaters later in the month, if this is really something that sticks. But it's a warning, I think, out there, much like, you know, warning about would Coogler miss? It's a warning to suggest that, like, go into that movie with an open mind rather than biased BS from somebody that doesn't know how to predict the Oscars.
Right.
You know?
The thing is that the controversies, if they are real controversies, they do leave Twitter and they go out into the real world.
Mhm.
So
like the AI stuff
That's what
last
happened
year
with
and
Carla Sophia Gascon. My friends in my everyday life who do not know anything about the award season, don't care about it, were sending me articles saying, "Who is this? Why won't she stop talking?" So when it gets
but then
to
also
that level, that's when you know, I
Mhm.
think that it's real and it's kind of permeated more than just the people who are scrolling all day and checking obsessively.
and then the AI stuff last year with the Brutalist and Dune and all that stuff too, like
I
played.
blame Kris Jenner.
I understand, but like that became, when I talked to voters, that was something I'm like, is that real? Is that something with when they were talking about the Brutalist? Like, is that And it started from an article, you know, it started from an interview that then led to an article that then blew up all over the place. So, you know, these are all little seeds that can happen, but you got to see it turn into a plant. But sometimes it's just a vile weed from a
Sometimes the article itself is a plant.
Exactly. Yeah,
It helps when it's
That's
behind a
the
paywall, so most people can't read it anyway.
that's true.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I saw that headline and it's like, it is November. I am not engaging with this at all
Yeah.
right now.
No.
Mm.
I think on that note we can wrap up for today. But needless to say, I think we have an exciting few months ahead of us. We'll have some awards coming up. We'll have the governor's awards later this month, and then that's always, I think, a huge sign, really, just to see who's there, hear the stories in the room of who people want to talk to, who people want to meet, and who's there, who's not there. And then into December, we'll kick off the month with the Gotham Awards and then the New York Film Critics Circle the next day. So exciting times ahead. Well, again, thank you all for being here today. Karen, where can we find you?
You can find me not on Twitter, but
Love
I'm
it.
on Instagram and Letterboxd, kind of on Blue Sky, but not even really there. Instagram and Letterboxd are the place to go at Karen M. Peterson.
And Josh,
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at JR Parham.
Ryan,
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterbox at Ryan McQuade 77. If you like all my work, you can find it here at awardswatch.com. There's tons of interviews that were released over the last couple of weeks. There's 2 more coming this week and tie into the 2 frontrunners and Sinners and One Battle After Another. You're going to want to check those out. Director Watch, just going to plug that real quick. We started a new series coming up on Thursday. We will be covering the films of Claire Denis. Very excited about that. It's the last series of the year. And then onward to 2026, which listeners out there, I got to tell you, it's a pretty killer lineup that Jay and I have concocted, and I'm really excited about those films. So you can find that here at awardswatch.com.
I might be joining for a 3-hour movie or 2 into
Couple
2026.
of those,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Like
And-
everybody's going to get on at least. Everybody here has been a guest, and they will be guests either by the end of this year or definitely in 2026.
Great. And Erik, where can we find you?
You can find me not tagging Karen on Twitter anymore when she has interviews or reviews. But otherwise, I'm on Twitter at awards_watch and then awardswatch everywhere else. Please sign up for the newsletter.
There it is.
Like Ryan said, a lot of great interviews that have dropped and a few coming this week that are pretty fantastic. So keep an eye out for those.
Great. And you can find me at Sophia_Sim on Twitter. I'm trying to step back, but it's truly a toxic relationship. You can find me on Letterboxd and Blue Sky at Sophia Sim. You can find my podcast, Oscar Wilde, wherever you listen to podcasts, and more reviews, interviews, and podcasts at Awards Watch. That'll do it for today. Thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you next time.